in memory of our Rasul, Paul and Johnson. I speak. Today is the Christians Academy Awards of Days called Easter. We call it another name. We call it a continuation of the cult of Ra. The cult of Ra. On this day, it was pigtailed, or this day was changed by different nationalities of people and given another name. We give the name the cult of Ra. And anything that is associated with this day is still associated with the cult of Ra. So our lesson is going to be a hodgepodge of information today. We're going to skip around on subjects. But we're going to start out with, from the Fahmi Gospel, the cult of Ra, and what it meant. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of the Most High God, I speak. Islam is the son of Isis, El, and Amen, and the son of ancient Ethiopia, a child of Africa, Kim or Ham. Islam is the mother of all religions. The cult of Ra, the cult of Africa, was copied by the Greeks and the Romans and renamed Christ. A Greek way of saying Ra. Let's keep that in mind. The Hamite contribution to civilization has been tremendous. The Hamites made valuable gifts to civilization. We're talking about your people. From the Nile came the germs of much found in the latter culture of the people of Western Asia, because the Chaldeans called Amun, Marduk, Osiris the warrior, as an earth god, the Hindu Shiva, Jewish Baal Gad, and Yahweh, and etc. And of the Greeks and Romans, Amen, as Raman, by the Greeks, or Zeus. Greek Hera is applied to Isis, queen of heaven, Aryan, Darius, and Roman Juno, and of the nation of the modern Europe, who calls the goddess Hathor by the name Eastor, from the Jewish Esther, Esther, Artemis of the Greeks. So the things that they are doing, we are trying to give our people an explanation as to what people are using your history for. They're using your history for luck. We are trying to reintroduce this information to you so you can be very proud of what your accomplishments were. The European people claim the civilized past by saying we are the heirs of the civilized past, and a goodly portion of that civilized past was the creation of ancient Egypt, the land of Ham. Thus, for instance, the doctrines of immortality, which entered the Western world with Christianity, was established by Constantine and his council at Nice, Rome, in 436 AD, by removing the human Jesus from the mythical Karais, the original Christ Amun-Ra, the God of truth, the good God. The Osiris, or the cult of Ra, faith and dogma, which is a belief held as truth, were the predecessors or the forerunners of Christianity, the foundation upon which it was able to build and to gather apart with their intrinsic, which is belonging to a thing by its very nature, worth, and far-reaching influence. It is this which constitutes our significance in the history of the world. Yeah. The God of the Hebrews before Moses' time was Baal God. Mm-hmm. And when Jacob came on the scene, he chose Israel as the religion of the Hebrews long before Moses was born. And they were called Japhites until Moses' time. And Moses renewed what Jacob left as Baal Gad to deliver the slaves under the name I am, or Yahweh, which was mistranslated to be Jehovah. One thing that constantly comes back, it keeps coming back, and I constantly bring it up. What were these Hebrews under the slavery of Ramesses the first? What were they doing? And the answer came back, they were following everything that the Egyptians taught them. They knew nothing else. They had been in bondage so long until everything that the Egyptians taught them, they accepted. Therefore, to a certain extent, we say that they are people of tradition. They are not makers of history, but history made them. The God of the Hebrews before Moses' time was Baal God. And when Jacob came on the scene, he chose Israel as the religion of the Hebrews long before Moses was born. And they were called Japhites until Moses' time. And Moses renewed what Jacob left as Baal God to deliver the slaves under the name I am, or Yahweh, which was mistranslated to be Jehovah. I repeat it. Moses, called Musa, was educated in the College of Thebes by Muthi, the wife of Ramesses I. He brought no new name for God. They existed already. The cause of Yahweh was exposed by a line of prophets before him. Elijah, Elisha in the 9th century, and Amos and Hosea in the 8th century stands preeminent. Jesus came along with a God of his own name, and that name was called Eloi, Eli, another way of saying Allah. That is another misconception that people either do not know or they have a misunderstanding as to who Jesus was. Jesus was not a Christian. Jesus was not a Christian. And that is demonstrated in some of the things that he is attributed to say. Like, when you enter a person's home, let your salutations be what?
Peace.
Peace. Peace. What does the Jew say? He says salam. The Arabs say salam. Other people say other things, but they all mean the same thing. Peace. Jesus, Yusuf, was not a Christian. He was a Muslim. Jesus came along with a God of his own named Eloi. And Eli, another way of saying what? Allah. Elah. Elohim. For all of them are repetitions of the one God, Allah. Because Jesus chose the Kara-is of the ancient Hamites 10,000 BC, as the Gathor religion of the Jews. Wisdom in general morals. Innate desires, which means natural desires, which we are reluctant or unwilling to expose readily, but which we recognize and nourish, is wisdom. The tremendous enrollment in this Fahmy College across this country is very much in need. In this college, we indicate a search for knowledge unequaled in any other field of learning. We need young people who are preparing to take their place in a higher competitive business field. That's what we need. That segregation and discrimination and Jimaroo germ must first be wiped out. Then the question arises, how? By accepting a culture of their own. Wow. That's how we're going to go at them. You go at them by teaching them about a culture of their own. They may be educated. They may have a degree. They may be very smart. But do they have a culture of their own? I don't think so. A culture of their own simply means language, history, religion, agriculture, science, positive ideas of dimension, space, time, and theology. As far as religion, God, language, history, and their birthright, the Negro just has simply missed his mark. We must be concerned of these things, but not dismayed by world affairs, such as wildlife, which leads us further from the realization of self. We realize that more than ever before, that we must depend upon wise decisions rather than upon weapons to carve on one another. In order to convert young people to our ideals, we must remember that their thinking and our influence over them will help them form a decision. There are many who are hungry for knowledge, and it is our duty to feed it to them. What is wisdom? Wisdom is knowledge properly applied. We are aware of our people being well informed in matters of general education, a little science, and too much religion and politics. But such knowledge alone does not make us wise. Now, let us search further in the realms of understanding. Then the question arises, where does wisdom begin? The fear of your God is the beginning of wisdom. And through ages, nobody has been able to refute the statement or substitute a better one.
Can do.
Now, I will make that statement understandable. Fear, in the sense of fright, is not indicated. The word means a combination of awe and love. The expression presumes a recognition and knowledge of a God. Our object in standing is not so much the acquisition of useful practical knowledge as to fit ourselves alone, but for skillfully calling knowledge in the future, not only from books, but from the common occurrence of everyday life. The grand desiderium will be better attained by completely mastering our branch of science than by curiously skipping over a score. The study of Fahami is the tool in which we are to use. Peace be with you. So the statement can be paraphrased. The knowledge of worship and love of God is the beginning of wisdom. Worshiping and loving a God of our own are natural outcomings of knowing thyself. So let us concern ourselves with finding and knowing our God, and we shall then have reached the beginning of wisdom, whereby whatever experience and knowledge we may acquire as we journey through life will be applied to the best advantage of ourselves and mankind. In general, for all things work together for good to them that fears their God. We must first seek the kingdom of Fahami and all of its righteousness, and all things will be added unto us. To seek righteousness, we will have it. We will have it. The fear of being poor, we will become beggars for the rest of our natural lives. We're taught about the poverty thought. If you think poor, you will be poor. Dismiss that thought. Throw that thought out. Anything that is going to carry you down, that's why we are banning that Negro name. It has no merit. Fear your God and keep his laws. Short of that, we will become bigaboos in the United States of America. Let us become mighty men of renown, in that we will make things right. But to rebel in the cause of truth is weakness and a wrong, for we are giving help to our enemies. This wisdom must be accepted in faith. It must be accepted in faith. How can we determine one's faith? This information that we're giving you now has to be accepted in faith. Does it make sense? Is it right for us? Is it proper for us? What is the origin of it? And the origin of it is, it came from a black man. What could be best? This wisdom must be accepted in faith by us first, before we can think about trying to bring in our young people. One thing that we ask, don't let them see your faults. In that, you will surely lose. If those young people come in and see your disagreement or your whatever you're doing that's not conducive, that's not going to make them want to become a part of you. When these people come in the door, we open our arms for these people and try to make it possible for them to come back. I repeat, this wisdom must be accepted in faith by us first, before we can think about trying to bring in our young people. Don't let them see your faults. In that, you will surely to lose. There is none without faults. There's none without faults. You can't be too good. You can't be too bad. Some people call it the yin and the yang. We have a saying. You cannot be too good. You cannot be too bad. So you have to be in the middle. There's none without faults. We all have faults. but the people of the public is curious, whose spiritual experience necessarily limited. Mutually, their decision to follow this religion is not easily made. It's not easily made. It's not easily made because it's presented so simple, in a simple type setting. So simple that people hear it and say, oh, I knew that. When in reality, we know you never heard it before.
I'm good.
But it's done simple for a reason. We got to remember our state of mind and the state of mind that we came from. Mutually, their decision to follow this religion is not easily made because of the fear that has been applied to them from the pulpit in the Christian religion. We are the most vulnerablest people on earth in all of the religions of the world. Everybody has a truth to tell us in order to keep us from our own. When the Negro, so-called, becomes conscious that all nations worship our ancestors as their saviors or worship God according to their ideals, what a change that will be. Our true advantage is not measured by the rapidity with which we try to pass over a prophet, but by our thoughtfulness in completely mastering whatever we undertake. The grand object in studying is to discipline the mind, expand its faculties, and prepare it for grappling with the overcoming adversities. I said we're going to skip around. I come prepared to a certain extent. I hope the brother had been here. I wanted the people to hear this message over the air, especially on a day that they were worshiping something that they had no knowledge as to what they were worshiping. They're worshiping an egg and a rabbit and all this other stuff. It has no meaning or there's no validity to any of it, but we worship it anyway. I wanted to start my lesson out speaking about the clock of God. The clock of God. The clock of God is the true calendar. All other days were deemed by man. If you notice, a lot of those days are in the same realm as those clock of God days. We celebrated March the 21st at St. Bukhara. The Christian came along with the day of St. Patrick. Later on, he came along and added this day here, Easter, from one of our ancient ancestors. Easter, you're still talking about our ancient ancestors. Why can't we give praise to our ancient ancestors and stop giving it to other people? The Harvey Gospel makes mention of the fact that we should change God. You have to change. We cannot continue to do the same things that we always do for the simple reason that we're going to get the same result. Following the same God, borrowing the same way, walking the same way. There are many references in the Harvey Gospel that makes mention of this. Another one that comes to my mind is, it is not necessary that everybody believe the same thing and follow the same God. This is saying, you can believe what you want to believe. Why? Why? I am a Fahami. And if you ask me, are you a Christian? I say yes. I'm a Muslim. I say yes. I'm a Hindu. I say yes. I am all of them and more.
I'm good.
I have preoccupied this land in peace for in peace. I am that and more. With that, I'll skip to another lesson that I plan on giving today. And this lesson was directly for the membership, basically. It's something that we should consider. We should consider this as a group. And it is titled Soul Power. Soul power. Soul power is exercised through the mind that is within the consciousness. A man should be master of himself. At least he should strive for such. By becoming masters of himself, he can make of himself what he wills. A man must organize his life properly, which means he must build his thoughts upon the correct and right fittings, which means being able to recognize the usage of a word in its proper place. Like qualities being proper to a substance. Use grammar in words belonging to one word or a few other words that are not common to all people. As I've already said, soul power is exercised to the mind from our souls. Because the mind is intellect, which is power from one's conscience to know and understand his actions. The mind, again, is that which thinks, feels, and wills. But we must plan first before we enter into the state of willing. These people have a will that they are pressuring you with right now. And they call it psychology. It is called psychology. And that is another word that we're saying is the same as will. Willing. To will a thing. The psychology. The psychology that has been fostered upon us is one that is not going to give us any light. All it's going to do is just cause us to error that much more. Draw a mental picture of the things hoped for, which puts the plan into operation. Then will it to become a material value in your life. That's the key to learning how to will. That is the key. We gave you a key. The key to learning how to will. You're learning how to will. For the will is power to decide and do by having deliberate control over our thoughts and actions. We started something here. We started having sessions where we concentrated. We used the power of concentration to focus our thoughts on a particular object. What we were doing, we were learning the first steps more or less to the power of willing. To the power of willing. No one can will anything over on you if you do not choose to have them to do it. Amen. Your power of willing is much greater than theirs. Some people call it white magic, red magic. Black magic is that magic that is ours. And is more powerful than any of it. With that in mind, I will say, peace be with you, my gods and goddesses, today. Thank you for listening to this fool. Peace be with you.
And peace be with you. Besalam Yisrael Bennett.